Dzień dobry Państwu. Dzisiaj moim gościem jest Minna Manninen, która jest doktorantką przygotowującą pierwszą w ogóle w historii fińskiej nauki monografię poświęconą Katarzynie Jagiellonce. I ja osobiście, znając Minnę już od wielu lat, wiem, że wie na ten temat bardzo dużo, jeśli nie wszystko. Minna przebadała bardzo szczegółowo zarówno szwedzkie, jak i polskie dokumenty na temat Katarzyny, na temat przede wszystkim jej posagu, między innymi bardzo trudny manuskrypt zatytułowany roboczo Wyprawa Królewny, który zawiera spis jej posagu. Hello Minna, I'm so happy to see you again.
Hello, and thank you for having me.
And I would like to discuss the journey, Catherine, to Finland, because this is the great beginning, to be honest.
Yes, it is.
And during our last project in which we cooperated, we talked about some documents related to the story of Katarzyna Jagiellon, but we didn't say anything about how she actually ended up in Finland after marrying John Waza. And I think that is quite exciting story. So maybe let's start from the beginning. The royal couple set out from Vilnius, and what happened next?
Well, the journey indeed was filled with many happenstances, maybe even some would say great misfortunes. John wanted to take the journey via sea. On contrary what Sigismund August had said, he wanted the couple to travel by land. But the land journey in the Balticum was very difficult in the sense that it was basically a war zone. And John was first of all in a hurry to get back to Turku, and second of all he wanted to avoid the troubled lands in the Balticum.
I read that he had a great ship, Ursus Finlandicus.
Yes, that was his namesake ship, meaning the bear of Finland. Mm-hmm. And that was a large ship, and he and Catherine were meant to journey, take the journey with that ship, and then there was another ship for the horses and such. Mm-hmm. So first of all, they traveled by land to Riga, and from there they were meant to take the journey by ship to Finland.
Mm-hmm. But later during the journey, John left Catherine alone, and he went to the castle and prepared it for her arrival. That's right?
Yes, around this time, this is the 16th of December at the moment, so around this time John set away from Tammisaari, Ekenäs in Swedish, and left Catherine there. So he went beforehand to Turku Castle to make sure that everything is ready for Catherine. But that was only much later. So there were many instances during the journey before that.
Okay, could you tell us something about this?
Yeah, firstly, when they tried to set sail from Riga, a very, very hard cold weather became, and the ships froze stuck in the sea, and the Ursus Finlandicus had to be sawed out from the ice. And supposedly it was very dangerous for both John and Catherine to get out of the ship to land, but also for the personnel and for the shipmen. So allegedly some even died. They drowned there, and it was very dangerous situation. And after they got the ship out of the ice, a storm came, a very hard wind that just threw the ship to the shore, and it broke. So they had to take the landway after all. John, of course, sent word to Finland to send more ships, but in the meantime they just had to, they waited a bit, but because the weather conditions were so harsh, they just had to take the land route to north via Balticum.
I am interested if this harsh cold weather was interpreted as a kind of bad omen for John and Catherine.
Yes, that was one of the several bad omens that people saw in their marriage, in the wedding celebrations itself, and during the journey. Like, for example, the journey that was held during the wedding celebrations, some people got hurt and horses died, so people saw that was a bad omen. And then when they set away towards Riga from Vilnius, one of the cooks got killed in the first night, and that was also seen as a bad omen.
But I think why people had so bad attitude.
Yeah, I don't know if it was the common attitude towards the marriage of Catherine and John, or they just saw bad signs everywhere more than the good signs.
Mm-hmm. But
it would be interesting to know if Sigismund August had like a astrological chart made for the wedding, because Sigismund the Old had charts made, at least for Sigismund August, like a birth chart. So it would be interesting to know if they saw good or bad omens there, or if they even had one made.
Okay, but what was happened in the next stages of this journey from Riga to Turku?
Well, Catherine and John took the landway towards north. They had horses on loan, but when they approached what's it called? You have to cut here because I can't remember. What's it? The Livonian lands. So, yeah. So when Catherine and John approached the Livonian lands, they met King Eric XIV's troops there, because Sweden was in war with Poland at the time. They had actually just started the war, and John and Catherine were there in the middle. And King Eric's troops confiscated the horses, so they had to travel by foot from then on. And that's not even enough because The Tsar Ivan the Terrible had heard that Catherine was near his lands. A few years before, he had asked Catherine's hand in marriage. Sigismund August had said no, for political reasons, obviously. But now he had heard that Catherine was near him and wanted to make his next move. So he took, some sources say that he took 5,000 men and set afoot to get Catherine. And of course, he had, his personal reasons. He wanted to get Catherine as his wife, but also political reasons. So if he had Catherine as a hostage, he would pressure the Polish king because he held lands and castles near the Russian areas. But unfortunately, he never got to Catherine, and he didn't succeed in this attempt.
Yes, and okay, how they managed to avoid all these dangers? Because from the one side, Ivan Groźny, Ivan the Terrible, and Eric 14 from the other side.
Well, there was one could say that there has to be luck involved, but also one would think that because they were so like royal people, like very noble people involved, it would be a disaster, an international disaster, to do something that is something so thoughtless that both Eric and Ivan planned to do at this stage. As we see it later, it didn't play any role, but at this stage, I think Eric may have been more careful on how he wanted to address the royal princess and his noble brother.
Okay, we have a kind of proverb which could describe such situation in Poland. Szczęście w nieszczęściu, which means luck in misfortune.
Yeah.
Okay, and I remember that we also we know anything about how Catherine was welcomed on the Turku castle. In Poland, feasts were organized on such occasions. Was there a similar tradition at the castle in Turku? Because Catherine arrived in Finland almost around Christmas time.
It was Christmas Eve.
Oh, so this is a very joyful time in Poland. And what about Finnish traditions?
It was, and it is. And Catholic traditions were very much alive back then. So I can think that the Catholic celebrations were held, like the Catholic related celebrations were held at the castle, and John had planned a welcoming party. When he went to the castle, he already along the way, but also from the castle, wrote letters asking people to come and join the welcoming celebrations. We don't know who was invited. We know that there was a letter that was the headline was the people who are invited, but the letter itself or the list itself has not survived. So we don't know how many people, but as we can think that around 600 people worked in the castle at that time, so it must have been hundreds. John had high noble Swedish people in his court, noble Finnish people, so it must have been, I think it must have been hundreds of people. And there were also other celebrations. A custom of the time was that many weddings, many marriages were held at the same time. So there were a couple of more marriages held at the time. And one of John's most close or loyal men got married. And there was many kinds of celebrations, Christmas and weddings and welcome parties and such. And we know that it lasted over a week. So it must have been very merry time.
But I remember when we were together at the Turku castle 1 year ago, you asked me what Catherine might felt when she found herself in Turku, which is a more modest castle than the Renaissance royal residence in Krakow. And I also remember that I replied that for Katarzyna, the most important thing was probably the fact that she got married at all, because her brother was not hurry to fulfill his duty towards his sisters. And we know what was happened to Anna Jagiellonka, Katarzyna's older sister. She was not happy in her personal life because the first of her potential spouses, Henryk Valois, fled to France, and the second wife, second husband, Stefan Batory, was completely not interested in her. So we can say something completely different about Katarzyna and John. There are rather many indications that they were indeed a happy and rather well-matched couple. For example, it was quite unique for this time, but this is certainly indicated by the loyalty of Catherine that Catherine showed towards John during the invasion on the castle by the troops of Eric. Then she did not abandon his husband, but stay with him, even though the King of Sweden allowed her to return to Poland.
Yes,
so
and also,
in spite of this all bad omens, they were happy together, I think.
yes, some sources point to that the marriage was very peaceful. They were actually happy, and also John was supposedly loyal to Catherine, because there are no indication that he ever held mistresses, which was very common for kings or noblemen at the time, or one can even say maybe men in general. But even when King Eric XIV, he was married, but he had everyone knew he had his favorite mistresses and such, but there are no mentions of John ever having mistresses or affairs.
Mm-hmm. But before he married Catherine, he has a wife? Or...
Yes, not actually a wife. They were not married, but Karin Hansdotter was the name of the woman, and they lived like, well, in modern terms, they just lived together. They were never married, but they had 3 children together. And Karin acted, the years she lived in the castle with John, she acted like the first lady there. And it was considered perfectly normal. And she was held in that status also by other people. But when John decided to marry officially, she had to step aside, and John also was kind of loyal to her as well, because he wanted her to marry a trusted man to John, and he also gave them two manors to live in and to get their sustenance from. So they were never forgotten about by John, and they never like they lacked nothing, because John wanted to make sure that they had every affair in order.
Okay, I've got the last question. Were feasts often held in the castle? Because I remember that there is a kind of imitation of royal feast in the Turku Castle Museum.
Yes.
And the cook Marcinek is all his statue.
Yeah.
And I wonder also about what did they eat at this feast?
The list of what they ate has not been, like a menu has not been preserved, but we know that I just have to check this, because there were so many things that was brought to Turku Castle during the time. So like the basic things that they were
I remember
eaten, and
pate with surprise, with hair jumping out of it.
Yeah, that was I don't know if they had that in Turku Castle, but that's I don't know if that's a basic thing, but a common thing was to make so-called illusion foods. So food could look like something, and then when they cut into it, it was something completely other. So one surprise with illusion foods would be that they made like a tart or a pie with a crust, a baked crust, but then there were live animals like the hare inside it.
or birds. It was such a custom in the carts, I think, to make a surprise.
Yes, because like people love to be entertained, surprised, like today. So they were not that different. in my opinion. So where's my list?
I wonder if sweets were eaten, for example, sweet cakes.
Yes, John had several silver bowls that were called konfekteskålar. That's confectionery bowls. So they don't refer to chocolate. We think that it's chocolate. or the word in Finnish and Swedish refers to chocolate today, but they were more like baked bites. They were sweet, but they were honey, almonds, but also different seeds in the batter. And also sugar was used at this time at Turku Castle. So yeah, they had these sweet treats. And one thing about medieval and Renaissance taste is that they didn't separate food as in first we eat salty and then sweets, but they could start with sweets and then with something salty, and then they would combine the two and also add vinegar, and then they would eat something else completely. So they just mixed and matched the different tastes.
Okay. You don't have to.
Yes, I
read all this.
I just can't find that.
Because about the food, we may also tell something about food separately.
Yeah. Well, I can say as a like an overall they would eat like, oh my goodness, I can't even remember what they're called in English. Like, what are the birds called in English that you hunt from the forests?
Bażant, I think, in Polish. Peasant?
Yes, that might be one of those, but like overall, all the birds you can hunt.
In Polish, głuszec maybe?
It's just forest game birds. Okay?
Okay.
All right, let's continue. So they would eat probably forest game birds, or like tame birds like chicken and geese. Also eggs were consumed in very large quantities. And also other game from the forest were shot and delivered to the castle. And perhaps even pork and beef was eaten. I don't believe that in large quantities, but in some way at least.
Okay, Nina, we have to end our meeting for a while because my time on Zoom is ending. So I will resume and and stop recording. Okay. Okay, it sounds really interesting, and thank you for the interview. I will just add that our next podcast will be devoted to Catherine's jewelry. That was the part of her dowry. So, dear ladies, I am especially inviting you to our next meeting, and we will see each other soon. Thank you, Nina.
Thank you.